Good people are often dismissed as fools. This idea, central to Dostoevsky's novel The Idiot, isn't just a passing thought, it's rooted in the author's own life experiences. Dostoevsky poured his struggles, pain, and moral reflections into this work, crafting a story that serves as a response to the suffering caused by heightened awareness, the burden of seeing human flaws while striving to remain good. But the novel isn't just about goodness. Dostoevsky also lays bare the darker side of human nature, greed, selfishness, and the misuse of free will. He doesn't stop at pointing fingers. He asks the deeper question, why? Why do people choose chaos over compassion? Let's dig into these questions as we explore the characters and their entangled lives. The story begins on a train. Prince Myshkin, the novel's protagonist, is returning to Russia after years in a Swiss sanatorium, where he was treated for epilepsy, just like Dostoevsky himself. On this journey, he encounters two men who embody everything he is not. There's Fyodor Rogozhin, a man recently enriched by an inheritance and consumed by an obsessive infatuation with a woman named Nastasya Filippovna. Then there's Lebedev, a sly, self-serving troublemaker who thrives on stirring chaos for his own gain. Once in St. Petersburg, Myshkin visits General Yapanchin, a distant relative. Here he meets Aglaya, the family's youngest daughter. Smart, beautiful, and curious, Aglaya is immediately drawn to Myshkin, setting the stage for a story rich with moral dilemmas, emotional turmoil, and Dostoevsky's piercing insights into human nature. Enter Nastasya Filippovna, a woman whose life is nothing short of chaos. Groomed by the wealthy Totsky, she now finds herself as a pawn in his schemes. Totsky, eager to rid himself of her, plans to marry her off to Ganya, a man consumed by social ambition rather than love. But Nastasya isn't one to quietly play along. At a tense party with Rogozhin, Myshkin, Nastasya, and Ganya, Rogozhin makes a jaw-dropping offer, 100,000 rubles for Nastasya, a blatant attempt to buy her love. In a dramatic move, Nastasya takes the money and hurls it at Ganya, openly mocking his greed. Amid the chaos, Myshkin stands apart. In a moment only he could muster, he professes his unconditional love for Nastasya and proposes, not out of pity or judgment, but pure sincerity. Yet, overwhelmed by Myshkin's honesty, Nastasya rejects him and flees with Rogozhin instead, unable to accept the kind of love Myshkin offers. Myshkin's goodness, however, begins to work against him. News of his inheritance spreads, and greedy relatives circle like vultures. True to his nature, Myshkin doesn't push them away, but offers financial help instead. Over time, Aglaya, the youngest Yapanchin daughter, becomes more involved in Myshkin's life. While she's drawn to his purity, she's also frustrated by it. She struggles to comprehend why he continues to extend kindness to those who exploit him. Society in her eyes is deeply corrupt, yet Myshkin keeps trying to mend its cracks. Though Aglaya begins to care for Myshkin, his heart remains tied to Nastasya, a bond as tragic as it is unshakable. Eventually, the story reaches a heart-wrenching climax. Myshkin, Aglaya, and Nastasya find themselves in the same room, and emotions boil over. Aglaya, enraged by Myshkin's unwavering defense of Nastasya, storms out, shattering any hope of a future with him. With Aglaya gone, Myshkin and Nastasya decide to marry, but the happiness is fleeting. On the wedding day, Nastasya's insecurities consume her. Convinced she doesn't deserve Myshkin's pure love, she flees with Rogozhin once again. What follows is a descent into tragedy. Rogozhin, consumed by jealousy and rage, murders Nastasya. In the aftermath, he sits devastated beside her lifeless body. And here comes the most striking moment of the story. Myshkin arrives, and instead of reacting with anger or judgment, he does the unimaginable. He sits beside Rogozhin, consoles him, and even wipes away his tears. This is the same man who had once tried to kill him. But Myshkin's capacity for forgiveness knows no bounds. He had forgiven Rogozhin before, and he forgives him again, even in the face of this ultimate betrayal. By the end, Myshkin is utterly destroyed, a shell of the person he once was. The cruel realities of the world have broken him, and he retreats to the sanatorium from which he first emerged. Meanwhile, the other characters are left to deal with the wreckage of their choices and the society they've built. Dostoevsky doesn't pull punches. He shows us the brutal truth of what happens when a truly good person tries to navigate a world steeped in corruption, greed, and selfishness. It's raw, it's devastating, and it forces us to confront hard questions about morality, humanity, and whether true goodness can survive in a flawed world. Let's dive deeper into what Dostoevsky wanted us to learn from this profound tale. Are morally good people fools? That's the question Dostoevsky asks in The Idiot, and honestly, it's a tough one. Everyone's going to walk away with their own take, but for me, the message is clear. Being too good can actually destroy you. Prince Myshkin, the novel's protagonist, is the epitome of purity, a holy fool. He's kind to a fault, always forgiving, and incapable of holding a grudge. But in the real world, that kind of goodness doesn't just go unrewarded. It gets punished. Myshkin's life is a parade of people taking advantage of him. His relatives circle like vultures, scheming to take his inheritance. Rogozhin, obsessed with Nastasya, literally tries to kill him. And yet, Myshkin forgives them all, every single one. That's what makes him noble, but it's also why Aglaya, one of his love interests, calls him an idiot. She doesn't want a man who's endlessly forgiving. She wants someone who stands his ground, and she's not alone. Her family dismisses him as weak, a man too soft to handle the harshness of life. One moment that really sticks out is when Myshkin offers to marry Nastasya Filippovna, not out of love, but to save her from her own self-destruction. It's a staggering act of kindness, but it also shows why society can't accept him. People start to doubt his sincerity. They think, no one is this good, there must be a catch. And in a way, they're right. Myshkin's relentless goodness doesn't fit into the world as it is. It makes him a target, not a hero. In the end, his kindness is his undoing. You can't go through life like Myshkin, wiping the tears of someone who just murdered the person you wanted to save and expect not to be crushed. That's the harsh truth Dostoevsky lays bare. It's not that being good is wrong, it's that being naively good, refusing to set boundaries or protect yourself, makes you vulnerable in a world that values cleverness and self-preservation. So, where's the balance? You don't have to be ruthless to survive, but you do have to be smart. Kindness without wisdom can turn you into a doormat, and that's the real tragedy of Myshkin's story. It's the ultimate nice guys finish last tale, beautiful, heartbreaking, and brutally honest. Don't get me wrong, I'm all for kindness, empathy, and being a decent human being. But let's be real, there's a limit. Being nice doesn't mean you should let people walk all over you. Sometimes being harsh is necessary. Otherwise, people will exploit you. It's just human nature. This idea ties back to critiques of Socratic philosophy by thinkers like Machiavelli and Nietzsche. They argued against placing reason above all, suggesting that humans should also lean on instincts, like the pre-Socratic Athenians did. While I don't fully buy into Nietzsche's extreme take, he's not wrong about balance. You need kindness, rationality, instincts, and yes, a little bit of toughness to survive. That's one of the core lessons Dostoevsky delivers in The Idiot. Life is messy, complicated, and painful, but it's also beautifully chaotic. This chaos plays out through the characters, each a walking contradiction. They're uncertain, indecisive, and driven by emotions that constantly shift, fueling the turmoil. Myshkin, for instance, is so kind-hearted that it becomes a flaw. He's stuck in this limbo between Nastasya Filippovna and Aglaya. Not because he's playing games, but because he feels responsible for everyone's happiness. It's noble but disastrous in practice. Then there's Nastasya, who takes chaos to a whole new level. She rejects Myshkin's love because she feels too broken for him, yet she repeatedly throws herself into Rogozhin's arms. The ultimate red flag. One minute she's burning money to expose greed, the next she's making decisions that seem completely irrational. She's a whirlwind of self-destruction and defiance, embodying the unpredictability of human emotions. What makes The Idiot so captivating is how Dostoevsky doesn't offer clear answers. Instead, he holds up a mirror to life's contradictions, showing us the beauty and pain of living in constant uncertainty. The unpredictability, the messy decisions, the chaos, it's frustrating and heartbreaking, but it's also deeply human. And Aglaya, she's like that friend who keeps you guessing. She roasts Myshkin for being too good, but clearly has feelings for him, except when she doesn't. Or maybe she does. Every interaction with her is emotional roulette. One moment she's drawn to his sincerity, the next she's frustrated by his lack of assertiveness. Aglaya embodies the contradiction of wanting something genuine, but being unable to accept it fully. Her push-pull dynamic with Myshkin is both maddening and painfully relatable. Then there's Rogozhin. He's the walking definition of obsessive love, dangerously intense and one bad day away from a disaster. And, well, disaster strikes. His love for Nastasya is a mix of worship and possession, which eventually consumes them both. Unable to reconcile his adoration and jealousy, Rogozhin ends up committing the ultimate act of destruction. He kills her. It's horrifying, yet Dostoevsky forces us to sit with it, to see the extremes of love twisted into something unrecognizable. But here's the genius of Dostoevsky. None of this chaos is random. The erratic behavior of his characters isn't just for drama, it's intentional. It reflects the messiness of real life, how people are unpredictable, inconsistent, and often their own worst enemies. The characters are torn between their desires, societal pressures, and their inner demons, creating a tapestry of chaos that feels painfully real. In The Idiot, there are no neat resolutions or moral takeaways. Dostoevsky doesn't hand us tidy character arcs where everyone learns a valuable lesson. Instead, he gives us life as it is, complicated, frustrating, and heartbreakingly human. It's his way of saying, this is what people are like. Good luck trying to make sense of it. Through this chaos, Dostoevsky captures the beauty and tragedy of human nature. It's not about resolving life's contradictions, but learning to live with them. That's the raw, unvarnished truth of The Idiot. A messy, deeply human story that leaves you questioning, reflecting, and ultimately appreciating the imperfection of life itself. Let's explore this further. What I love most about The Idiot is its unflinching honesty. Dostoevsky doesn't sugarcoat life. He lays it bare, exposing the suffering that touches everyone, no matter their circumstances. Take Rogozhin, for example. He's rich, but happiness, nowhere in sight. His wealth doesn't shield him from the torment of his obsession and jealousy. If anything, it amplifies his misery. Money might solve practical problems, but Dostoevsky reminds us it can't buy peace of mind or emotional stability. Then there's Nastasya Filippovna, a character so consumed by self-loathing that she sabotages herself at every turn. Her life feels like a slow-motion train wreck. You can't look away, no matter how painful it gets. She's driven by this relentless need for self-destruction, which makes her story both tragic and deeply compelling. Greed is another thread that runs through the novel, weaving chaos into nearly every character's life. Most of them are chasing something: money, status, power, like it's the answer to all their problems. And then you have Myshkin, the outlier. He's not interested in playing these games. He walks into this world of greed and chaos with nothing but kindness, thinking he can help. Instead, society grinds him down, mocks him, and exploits his goodness until there's almost nothing left of him. It's heartbreaking because it's true. The world doesn't know what to do with people who refuse to follow its rules. Myshkin's kindness is a quiet rebellion, but it's also his undoing. And let's be honest, sometimes his naivety makes you want to shake him. Good intentions aside, he was out of his depth. And then there's Kolya, the young boy grappling with the weight of terminal illness. His struggle with tuberculosis and his eventual breakdown is one of the most devastating parts of the novel. The scene where he tries to take his own life in front of everyone is gut-wrenching, a stark reminder of how deep despair can run. Dostoevsky doesn't shy away from showing the raw, unfiltered truth of depression and the helplessness that can come with it. The Idiot holds a mirror to life, its suffering, its contradictions, and its relentless unpredictability. It doesn't offer easy answers or tidy resolutions, but that's what makes it so powerful. Dostoevsky captures the essence of being human, messy and flawed, yet still searching for meaning amidst the chaos. What really hits me is how Dostoevsky paints this grim picture of free will, or the illusion of it. It's like he's saying, you think you're choosing your path, think again. You're just following the script society handed to you. For characters like Rogozhin and Nastasya, their choices are shackled by their pasts, passions, and emotional scars. They can't escape what's already been written for them, no matter how hard they try. Then you've got the ones who are just slaves to the pursuit of wealth, status, and power. Basically, they're stuck on a treadmill of society's expectations. Myshkin, the only character trying to break free from these chains, still gets pulled into the mess. He tries to rise above the chaos, to be a symbol of goodness and purity, but in the end, even he gets crushed by it all. And that's what makes this novel so tragically beautiful. Dostoevsky doesn't give us a neat, happy ending or some tidy resolution. Instead, he gives us the raw, painful truth of life. How people are caught in this endless struggle, trying to make choices, but often just reacting to forces they can't control. There's something so real about that. Life isn't neat, it isn't fair, and it sure as hell doesn't always give us the closure we want. The Idiot doesn't promise hope or salvation, but it does show us how people keep pushing forward, even when the world keeps pulling them back. It's messy, it's uncomfortable, but it's also deeply human, and that's what makes it so devastatingly real.